Okay, I'm so happy to welcome Sekhmet in episode
Hello.
6 of Ninjacorn podcast. And I'll let you introduce yourself if you're okay with that. But first, kudos to you as you're the number one first female to be on my podcast. So that is an
Yes.
amazing feat.
Thank you.
I do have
Oh,
other female friends out there, but they seem to be in hiding. So you are brave, you're courageous, and you're freaking powerful to be on it today.
thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It was so random. I was like, "Hey, let's chat." And you're like, "Podcast?" I'm like, sure."
Awesome.
That's great. So I'm Sekhmet. How did we meet? I think one of our so I'm in a sangha in an ashram called Bodhi Mandala in Santa Cruz Mountains, and I met Oh, Ekajari, formerly known as Hathor,
Yeah.
at one of our martial arts weekend, and I think that's how we pretty much connected. Somehow you got hurt. Do you remember that? Somehow you got hurt and you fell, and
Yes.
then that was like kind of like the start of safety. It was so funny. And then like Nyx was like cleaning, and everyone was like, "Aren't you supposed to do that? You're a nurse." I'm like, "Well, Nyx got it handled. It should be fine. She's not dying or anything." And I'm watching, so it's great.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Was that our first meeting? Okay. I remember very fondly because how your guys' ashram is, it's in the woods and stuff like that. And there's like cement steps. And there's a moment I totally wasn't paying attention as I was stepping down these cement steps. And then like I tripped over my own foot and then I skidded, like landed on my knee and skidded it up. And it was a little bloody. And my dear friend here went to go to the first aid kit and busted out all this like Band-Aid, Neosporin, and whatever things to clean it up. And I
Yeah.
think afterwards you're like, I think we need to bolster up the first aid kit. There was not enough this. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was our first time meeting. Hi.
Oh, you were so good to me. And
That was
yeah.
that was actually funny because I think that was like the start of when you and Terry was visiting
Mhm.
was visiting Bodhi Mandala.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because at that time I think it was just more so like the ST4s and threes, like you guys were connected then, and then like slowly the entire community was like, "Hey Hathor," or "Hey Akajadi," formerly known as Hathor.
Yeah. No,
That
totally.
was fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember that day at that time up at the martial arts weekend. That's awesome. Okay, so I wanted to invite you here today because I want to maybe ask you a few questions on martial arts, your meditation, and also a little bit background. I mean, maybe you can share with them why you have had roles in safety and safety teams, what your background is that lends to that role. So people are like, what? Why?
Oh, yeah. So I kind of mentioned safety. So
Yeah.
in our Sangha, we have safety and security for Sangha events. And we've shifted where in the communities such as Bodhi Mandala, we require safety just to monitor natural disasters, first aid situations, and so forth, because that was the need. And so my background is that I'm a registered nurse.
Uh-huh.
I focus on very unusual things. So I do occupational health, home health, med surge, hospice at one point. So I have a more of a holistic care of like prevention as well as treatment.
Yay.
So yeah, it's been pretty fun learning how to do like structures and create things and having visions of like, oh, this is like what we can do. This is how we can help build the participant experience of Sangha events.
Yeah. And when you talk about your role on the safety team, I always think of it in regards to like my husband's work, which is in the TV production roles and production industry. And
Mhm.
when they're filming things, they absolutely have safety teams. Like that's the core component, not just for like legal stuff, but like
Yeah.
to make sure contestants and participants have the right medical attention, right? And then the needs are correct. And then like the way structures are being built, where the crew is staying, where the camera, and the contestants are, it's safe, because usually they're filming outdoors with
Yes.
wild animals and weather, and that always can beat the body up a little bit. So you kind of need safety there too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's been fun because the beginning of safety was kind of an ad hoc thing for our Sangha. It was kind of like, oh, safety, if you need water, we got water, we got snacks to keep you grounded, we got a shovel if you get stuck in the desert, you know? And and like if there was rarely any like first aid situations.
Sure.
And it's funny because the past 2 years, that's when things started ramping up, meaning like people are starting to get serious cuts or like unusual cactus incidents
Yep,
where a
I was there.
cactus was, like on a leg. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? And just like on the fly having to figure out like, okay, we don't have like certain equipment, like what can we do to help this person? So it's been a lot of like improvising. So it's been really fun like dealing with that because you have to have a still mind in a sense and really focusing and prioritizing like what can we do to one like help this person emotionally and physically, and two, like how do we communicate that with the people around us as well as the event organizers or community members.
Right. And so I hear a ton of learning and growth that's just so beautiful as I've seen it kind of on the outside, right? Which
Mhm.
makes me want to ask the question of maybe starting backtracking off of safety for a second, just high level, is
Yeah.
like what does power mean to you? Right. And how does that show up in your life, your martial arts, your meditation practice?
Yeah. It's so funny that you're talking about power because I was actually re-listening to Rama's talks and Ajahn talks about power.
Mm,
And there's different dimensions of power, but power is essentially different bands of awarenesses. And how do we get that? Well, one, it's through transmissions, through teachings, through experience, right? Personally, or we hear it from other people. And with power, we have a lot of willpower and determination to like really see beyond our limitations. That's power for me.
yeah.
How do I use that? That's like a lot of like really deep questions, like being honest with ourselves. Really, it's like, how do you use power? Like, how is power like? It's like power uses you. You don't use power, and that's like the trick for me. It's because um when I'm in the moment, um I have to go beyond self, and to do that is really focusing on other people, whether that's like for an emergency, whether that's for an interview. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to get this job, not just because I need a good pay rate, but like I can help invest this with my community, which I'm doing to like giving um rent.
Giving back. Yes, yes,
Giving
yes.
back.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really well said because, and it's not an easy topic to talk about because power is not necessarily a tangible thing, right? It's very subtle. And so it's like when you have experienced power working through you, what has it looked like? Maybe give me some examples that people can, who are listening, are like, oh, that's what power looked like in her life. Let me think how that looks like in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can give an example.
Yeah.
So when it comes back from my first power dive, I just started the Sangha within 3 months. Sambhava was my mentor at that time, and it was really cool because I'm terrified of water. I had like a drowning situation when I was like 6 years old, and such.
Oh,
I was like, oh my gosh, I can't swim. I don't know how to do this. And he's like, yeah, we were doing scuba diving, and like I'm a dive master, and like I can help you with all these things. I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's just give it a kick.
okay.
And what happened was we had the winter solstice at Anza Borrego. I sprained my ankle.
Oh,
And then
dude, and your
shortly after,
safety.
no, I was just like a beginner at that time. So this was
Oh,
like a couple years ago. And I was just a beginner, knew nothing really much about
oh,
the Sangha. And I was like, I want to learn more.
okay.
And so I sprained my ankle, and then a couple in like 2 hours, we're gonna fly to Bonaire. And I was like, and he was like, you don't really have to, like, it's up to you if you want to. And I was like so pressured. I was like, but I invested so much time and money for this, like, why not? And just I was like, you know what, no matter what, I'm gonna go to this trip. And for me, that's power because it's having that awareness that like, yes, you could totally just go back to your home and just be chilling and like nursing your ankle, but I was like, no, I'm gonna push through it because there's something bigger that I need from this trip to go over my fear. Like no matter what, even if I have a sprained ankle, I'm gonna go dive and have this experience that I can do it. Because this person, Samava, believes in me. Why can't I believe in myself? So it's like really, really strong with like determination and willpower. So we did the whole thing. I did a couple of scuba diving stuff. And that trip was the time when I had the open water certification. And one of the trips was, one of the exercises was that you're pretending that like, well, you actually do. You have no oxygen. And so what happens is that your buddy is going to give you their spare octopus and
Yeah.
you're breathing through it and you circle to go back up and then there you have to like blow into your own BCD to inflate your
Complete it.
own vest again.
Mhm, mhm.
And so at the end of it, the dive master was like, "Oh my gosh, like that is the first this is like the first team that I've ever seen that's like super impeccable." Because during that mindset, when even though I was so scared, something clicked, which was like, holy crap, this is real. This person that's like does not have any oxygen, she really doesn't have oxygen. I'm really saving her life. This is not an exercise. And
Mm.
like that mentality and that awareness shifted where I was like, oh my gosh, despite my fear, despite everything, I'm gonna save this person. So for me, that's power. It's like pushing beyond the limit and be like, oh my gosh, there's more to this.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps, dude. Seriously, I have goosebumps. That's so because what I hear is, power used you, but also you structurally how you are like built, right?
Mm,
Profiled out energetically, whatever you want to call it, is so compassionate, right? And loving and selfless. And when power moves through you, like you were in this beautiful position to be able to save a life, right? Even though it was for certification purposes, it was practice, it was in a safe environment, everything like that. But my goodness, like how amazing did that feel afterwards? Were you like so high? We're in
I
love.
was so high. At the end, I was just like, oh my gosh, I passed. And then after that, they're like, and then I was like, yeah, I have a sprained ankle. And like Vivica was like, how are you able to do all of this? I'm like, I have no idea. It just happened. I was like, can you tow me back because my ankle is tired?
Right,
And so
because of the kicking would have really messed it up. Oh
exactly.
damn.
Because we did like a dive or two, and then on top of that, we did a couple of exercises before the final exercise. So my leg was pretty tired.
Oh my God. Okay. I love that. It makes me think of which like our poor bodies. Honestly, I love you, body.
Yes.
And what we put it through, right? Because you
Yeah.
make me think of when I was preparing for my second degree black belt test. I ended up breaking a toe on each foot. And it was like the first one clearly was not enough. And the second one was like, okay, have you learned your lesson yet? And I was like, ugh, so frustrating.
Yes.
And it wasn't obviously debilitating, kind of like your sprained ankle, but there was enough pain and discomfort that it makes your ego be like, okay, do I want to dip out and just call it good? I don't want
Mhm.
to say it's an excuse because it's legit. If you need to call it good and rest, like that rest and recovery is real and it's necessary, right?
Exactly.
How do we then, through drawing upon power and increasing our personal power, be able to move beyond that, like continue to learn, grow, train, get certified more, so that we up level our lives to that next level, right? And I think that was a great example. I love that it was in dive that it happened. That
Yeah.
is so
It took a lot to get to that. Like it kind of helped because Zimbabwe made us like do 5 dives a day. And I was like, yeah, Navy SEAL kind of thing is like really intense. But yeah, just finding like realizing and being in that moment. There was like a moment, a pause for me. It was a stillness where I was just like, I finally see. Like it's not about me for that moment. And it only takes a split second. Once we have that recognition, it's like, oh my goodness, how
yes.
refreshing.
And what an opportunity that you totally like, you know, grabbed and just kind of really incorporated into your life. So like what would you maybe give for like tips or helpful like supportive advice to someone who's listening who maybe is also can identify with you, you know, females maybe, or just someone who's like struggling. They're like, oh, I want more power in my life. I want to be super strong, courageous, but this is happening and you know, what do I
Yeah.
do?
Huh. What has helped me
Mm-hmm.
with that, it was a process for sure. It's but the first thing is really believing in yourself and be like, you know what? I do have power. Nobody else can tell me I'm not. And if I believe in myself, that should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And look around and see who believes in you, like the people that surround you and loves you, because
Oh,
they're like also supporting you too. And knowing that helps a lot. That's why it's
yeah.
so important with community. Oh my gosh, I'm crying. That's why
That's
it's important with
beautiful.
community because when you have the right tribe to support you and you support them and realize that love is power too. And just keep them going. That's so great because seeing that there is more beyond yourself, that's like letting power go through you. Because you don't have to think about it anymore. You're just doing what is necessary at that time, at that point.
It makes me think of, I know you gave me teary-eyed too.
I
That's
just
so
cry
touching.
for so much. Like when truth comes out, like I just can't help but cry.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. You
Thank
know
you.
me, I always say this all the time, you know, tears never killed anyone that I've known. So
Those are like really dangerous tears that we do.
no one has ever died. They died from other stuff, but not from tears. Okay. So crying is totally okay. But you make me think of one, right? Highlighting the importance of just community and specifically a healthy, supportive community that is rooted in our highest, brightest good, right? And that doesn't have to be a spiritual community or a monastery or anything like that. It can also just look like your circle of friends that you keep close around you. You know, are they believing in you, you know, and your power to do XYZ to like up level your life and up level your life? And the reality of it is it's very easy in the common outside world, you know, to be in like a barrel full of crabs. You know, you try to climb out and the other one's like, no, you're not going anywhere and pulling you down, right? And
Exactly.
I feel like it's true with that saying where they're like, if you want to go far, go by yourself. But, or if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you go with others. Right. And that's the whole thing about, I think, in Buddhist teachings, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are the three jewels, right? Sangha is
Mhm.
that community, that jewel that really can take you far in your spiritual practice and in life. So I love that you highlight that because you
Yeah.
have an amazing community.
Thank you so much. You have an amazing community too. I was listening to episode 2 of Jyoti. I was like, damn. So profound. But that's what's so beautiful about like trust and honesty, like with the people that you like really spend time with. Um, like you have so many different perspectives and so many teachings through them. And like just going about it by yourself, it's not any fun. And it's just like at least you get to crack jokes if you're in freaking suffering. You're like, oh yeah. We're all in it together, yay.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah. No, that's great. No, and
Mhm.
then so it makes me think of the next question. I don't know if you'll be able to differentiate. If you're like, skip, we can totally skip this, is because I totally want it from your perspective as a
Yeah.
female, right? Is what is feminine power versus masculine power? How is that different for you? How do you see it?
How we describe like feminine and masculine is usually the yin and the yang. A lot of the times when they say feminine power, it's a lot of the internal power. It's very subtle. For me, it's a lot of wisdom. It's a lot of stillness. Yet it's like how we liken it is like the waves of an ocean. You just never know. It's very unpredictable. But not entirely too sure how else I would describe that on the fly.
Mm.
Masculine power, it's very much yang energy. It's very external and very seen. I
Yes.
liken it to like if we talk about martial arts, internal is like Tai Chi, the flow,
Yeah.
and then yang energy is like karate.
Yeah.
And like it's like the internal and external observations of things.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And you know what you're making me think of is I've been reflecting on this kind of feminine power and masculine power because I've also, agree with everything you said there. It's like this inward thing and this very outward thing. And
Mhm.
then like another thing that I've been playing with is how like illnesses, sicknesses, and stuff like that makes me really think about immune systems, right? And how important our immune system is to have a strong, healthy body, to be able to do all the things we love and enjoy. And I just think, the feminine power is having a strong immune system. And the masculine power would be allowing that physical body that has the strong immune system to go and go out into outdoor nature and not sneeze your head off with like crazy allergies or something like that.
Yeah,
Or be able to
yeah.
go do a martial arts class and be like not coughing the whole time because you kind of feel like an onset of a cold happening. It's like, does that make sense? I know it's so
Yeah,
weird.
totally makes sense. Yeah. And like some people when they compare it or an analogy or like a phrase that they say is like women is of power and men like the power section and the women is of power and men is of love. That's like how we liken things to it.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think
And
of like men as the heart, women is
oh,
like the wave.
oh, and
Yeah,
the way I know Taria has shared it with us, right, is like the feminine energy being like the support component and the masculine being the action, right? So
exactly.
the action happens through this like support. I don't have a great metaphor of it, but that's how she's explained it. Yeah, yeah, I love that.
And that's true too. Like, so the things that we work with, like in our community too, a lot of a lot of the I've been noticing a lot of the positions, a lot of women are into those positions where it's just like, here's the vision. Like this is what we see. And then a lot of the times the men's they are able to help carry forth that vision and like
Mhm.
build the structure, engineer it, if you say it
Yeah.
that way.
Oh,
That's
right.
how like a lot of the mystery schools, from what I've been told, I can't recall that. Like that's how the foundation of structure is.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It just made me, I don't know very much about architecture, but it makes me think like the feminine energy is like the blueprint that they lay out for what will be
Yes,
built, right? And
yes.
and masculine energy is the actual physical beams, the bricks, that's laid out. Yeah. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Coming to
And
fruition. Yeah.
yes, yes. Awesome. Oh, I love that. I think I got a new, deeper understanding of feminine
Hey,
masculine power.
collaboration works. I love this.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I know you practice martial arts, what has martial arts taught you in regards to your spiritual meditation practice? Because I think some people would come in, listen, like, martial arts, how does that have anything to do with meditation? Right. But from our lineage and our practice, martial arts is like game on with meditation, just like scuba diving.
Yeah.
So maybe you can help listeners correlate why
Oh
that is
man.
so.
So meditation in general. How would you define meditation? I'm curious about you with
Oh,
meditation.
okay. When I think of meditation, I take kind of the generic, template of like seated practice, whether it's, listening to music, whether it's listening to nothing, being out in nature and just working to still the mind and stop the thoughts, right? That
Yeah.
just being meditation. And so
Yeah.
I think for something that feels very still and zen and quiet, how does that have any kind of correlation to martial arts that looks punch you in your face? I'm gonna
Yeah.
choke you out. It's like, what?
Exactly. Like what you mentioned with meditation, it's so true, which is like it's the clearing the mind. It's there's a focal point. For us, we do a meditation with a song, whether it's like a song, whether it is like causal dimensions like white or gold light, and it just like really focusing on like a task at hand.
Mhm.
Because when you focus on one thing, to the extent of nothing else, there's like thoughts will always be there at certain points, but it's like, what do you choose to really focus on? Do you choose to focus on just really that focal point? And that's what I think that martial arts is also, is like you focus on the discipline, you focus on training your mind as well as your body to be like, okay, is this, I can't say the perfect, but is this the most impeccable kata that I've ever done? And observing what's coming out internally. It's like, okay, I'm having this anger. Like, where is this anger coming from? It's like, does that even matter? It's like, no, what matters is this kata that I gotta do at hand.
Oh.
And and the more that we continue to practice, the more self-discovery unfolds. And that's what I feel spiritual practice is it's truly like really discovering what's beyond self and like what are these things that arises and falls.
Mm.
And like, okay, that's cool. We recognize it. Then what? I was like, okay, we do the task back at hand again. And I think it takes a lot of guts and honesty to be like, okay, I really want to dedicate myself and devote my time to this certain um, thing, whether that's martial arts or meditation. And essentially, like if the intent is like what comes from it, like if your intent is like, I really want to discover myself and be open. And I know that like what I am now is not truly it. There has to be more.
Mhm.
And that's what martial arts shows me. Like when I do well, I'm not practicing at the moment, but when I'm in like matches,
Uh-huh.
or doing katas, um, when I think like I can't really do it, like our teachers like teach us like, there's just still more work to do. There's more things to refine and makes me realize like I'm not just that person, I am that action, that fluid movement, that meditation, that stillness.
I love what you're speaking about because that's like it's never necessarily perfect, but you can be impeccable about it, which is like the continual refinement process, right? How
Mhm.
often and many times have I gone to class, all these years long, and the most basic technique that sensei or the teacher is teaching, I'm like, I can't get. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Because there's like this new like area of refinement I need to work on, and I'm completely like flustered and I can't even do any of
Exactly.
the things before. It's really weird. And I feel like I always have to take a moment to like settle back into my body, give myself some compassion to recognize, oh, something is shifting, right? And getting refined and changed and transformed within my being. That's why things are crumbling on this other side. But
Yeah.
it's funny, not funny. Sometimes it's like today, weapons class, we're holding the wooden sword. And since it just wants us to move the sword up and down, it's like literally from your navel up to your chest, your heart, and the down, just to keep it really loose and fluid. And then you walk,
Mhm.
and then you walk and you walk and you're just doing this. You're not trying to fight off anybody. You're just trying to literally be fluid and flexible and walk. And dude, seriously. And then just sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't even turn. Stop. What do I feel so awkward? But that I feel
Yeah.
like is the real of refinement process. It doesn't always look pretty. I mean, my goodness,
Yes.
how many times on the martial arts mat I was like, oh, that did not look good.
Yeah. Yeah. And self-control, like is like a very big thing. I see a lot of the black belt candidates when it's starting to get near the time, there's just so much tension. And sometimes, a hit gets like to a face or something. And I was like, oh yeah, like that comes from the mindset. Or it's like, okay, let's reflect on that. And I see that and I hear my friends talk about it and it's just super inspiring because no matter what, despite all the pain, they still do that. I don't know why. That's their own reason, but
But,
we do
like,
it because we love it.
yeah, absolutely. But then I think of like right there is that great example where like, all that power, tension, stress is like, then you got
Yeah,
to try to self control it. I feel like that's that very razor's edge of
exactly.
impeccability, right? Because you're want in martial arts and also in meditation, you're wanting to grow and increase your personal power, but you don't want to do it at the detriment of like Hulk smash and you're like breaking shit, right? You,
Exactly.
you got to be able to like go up to the edge and then with full force, like you're going to break that wall and not. But
Exactly.
at the same time, you don't want to go into it holding yourself back because the attacker and teachers see that. They're like, don't hold back. You're like, oh.
Yeah, and just that alone, when you're talking about it, that takes tremendous focus and attention, right? And having that awareness, be like, "Hey, I know I have the power to beat the shit out of you, but I choose not to because that's my practice. It's not to be harmful, but
Right.
like
Ahimsa. Yeah.
exactly,
Yes.
yeah." And that's what I'm really grateful about, like martial arts and like what was shown with us because like there's other schools and sometimes they may not be actually showing us these type of awarenesses, and it's really cool that we get to share this and discover more things
Mm, I love
internally.
it. I
Mhm.
love it. What was maybe like a happy high bright moment for you in martial arts that you would like to share just for the
Yeah.
listeners?
Oh my
Just that,
goodness, I
yeah.
can't remember much. Tell you the truth, I haven't been doing martial arts for a while.
Really? What
But
about your last belt test or something? Was that like high bright and good?
that one is so intense. That was so intense, but it was a really good teaching. So there was a couple of us. This was like during a martial arts weekend. It was the very last thing on like after 3 days. Actually, it's 4 days. 4 days of like intense martial arts. And at the end, like you could see everybody just so tired. And what's so amazing about that is that we're all so tired, but we're still gonna do our best. And like seeing everybody, I was like one of the first ones doing karate, a Bodan
Oh.
test. And it was just you see like 10 judges in the front, black belts, just like staring at you. And like you could
Ugh.
just feel the immensity of like naval power. And like you feel just being crushed. And you're like, you know what? No matter what, I'm gonna do what I need to do.
Wow.
But what
Wow.
was super inspiring for me is like my partner was there because you have to do the katas, but you also have to do light contact sparring with each other just to demonstrate our kicks, our punches, as well as ma. And like I just had the honor and privilege to like do that with that person. And like it was like, yeah, we were nervous as hell, but it was like a dance, right? We connect and we're like, you know what? It's not just for me, it's also for that person. I wanted to be compassionate and like give them the best that I can so that we could both pass. Whether or not we could both pass, that's not the point. The point is we're doing an impeccable job.
Job.
And in
Yeah.
the end, everybody passed. Whoever
Oh,
tested for a karate Bodan belt, we all passed. And
wow.
the teaching was, you know, us as a group, no matter what we did individually, us as a group, our intention and our like focus was just so much on par and beyond that like they couldn't do anything except to give us all Bodan belts. So that
Oh.
was really, really bright for me. I don't know if it
Wow.
was like super happy. I was super dead, but it was very bright. It
Okay,
was
yeah,
really
I get it. Wow, that sounds amazing. And how
cool.
many was in your group that tested that time?
I can't recall. I think there was
Okay.
at least, I think I was at least 8 to 10. It was quite a
Wow.
big group.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's amazing when you have that experience, not only for yourself to pass the belt test, like individually, but like on a collective group level. Like clearly, you guys demonstrated something that day on test day that all the black belts are like, okay, there's nothing we can. Damn, that's
yeah.
awesome.
And that was the first time that I'm aware of that has ever happened in our
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I feel that. I totally
yeah.
feel that. There was something really special about that group. dynamic and stuff.
Mhm.
Whoa, that's very cool. That's very cool. You know, because it makes me almost think of, and you know, I have no actual training from this, but only from stories I've read and some like one, two people maybe I've talked to in regards to like Navy SEALs
Mhm.
teams, how they are trained to just work so in sync with each other as a group to be such the killer elite. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it
Yeah.
sounds like that group had some kind of real cool vibe. Like that's what I'm feeling, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And it was fun because afterwards I chatted with a couple of the senseis and they're like, yeah, like it wasn't just that test. It was like throughout the entire weekend. You just see like everyone's attention was just so razor sharp and it's just something that they've never seen before. At least that's what they told me.
Wow, that's really cool. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, to be a fly on the wall that whole weekend.
I'm like, what's going on, guys?
Oh my goodness. So then another next question is, what is maybe some advice you give yourself when you first started?
Oh,
Um, or someone that is maybe first starting on the path, the spiritual path,
yeah.
that you're like, tips and pointers. Don't do this, this, and this. But do this, and this.
Oh my gosh. Oh, don't be like me right now. Keep on going into martial arts.
Okay.
Definitely. Because martial arts, yes, it's a discipline, but like energetically, it helps buffer out so much that the world is like really not aware of. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of intense things that happens, and when you do that and you focus and you build up that navel chakra, like there's just such a buffer, and you're like, that doesn't phase me. That's cool. Like I could do this interview, I could do this presentation, I could do this podcast. Just kidding.
So
But being
scary.
consistent is really important. And what's really helpful is like interacting with and like chatting with your friends or the people like if you have questions because they don't bite. Same thing with the senseis, they're always there for you. And that's what I really appreciated. It was that they always had the time to set aside time and was like, hey, I have a question on this kata or this like throw, like can you give me pointers and a different way of seeing things and like always engaging into it. Just be curious and be open.
Mhm.
What I would say.
Which I think, you know, you bring up a great point is I feel like the dojo structure and also a spiritual community structure or spiritual school has very similar parallels, right?
Yeah,
Where that teacher student interaction is really such a sense of selflessness and act of service for both parties that
exactly.
both, you know, gain from it, which I feel like is when you know structures like that are healthy and good, it really fosters a lot of great teachings and students, right? Kind of just,
Exactly.
yeah, little garden that grows good plants.
Exactly. Yeah. And they've been really fun lately. At least when I was there, they did dodgeball and all that stuff as a warm up. So it's not just like let's meditate or let's just do laps around the the
They
whole
make it
thing.
fun.
So it's been very engaging, at least from what I've heard. But
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I know, I think I was at one of your martial arts weekend and the warm up was like tag, but I don't know what kind of tag you guys call it, where once you get tagged, you freeze and then you have to like crawl underneath the person's legs in order to
Yeah.
unfreeze them. Is that called
Yeah.
tag? Is that what you
Freeze
guys?
tag. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's what
either
it's
you
called.
go underneath or if you really can't because back issues or something, you run around them once.
That's right. That's right. I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
make that an activity in my dojo the next one.
it's yeah, I get really tired out so easily whenever we do that. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys run so fast.
People are going
Let me
crazy,
just like
dude.
walk and just like be frozen to take a breather.
I remember being part of that freeze tag and like I was frozen and I was waiting for someone to crawl underneath my legs. And then
Yeah.
like one guy ended up like trying, and then they're like, Dejati, you need to open your legs wider. I was like, from a guy to a girl, is that proper language?
In the moment they just want to like save you, they're like, okay, let's do this.
There's like a moment of pause there, like, is that appropriate? Okay, I think we're okay. Right?
I mean,
Oh my
it
gosh.
happens.
I know, totally. Funny stuff, funny stuff.
Yes.
But going back
Yes.
to when you were first started or to someone that is newly starting or, with what you see in like new students, beginners and stuff like that, what would you tell them? What would you give them for advice that's like, this was really helpful for me if I knew this back then?
Hmm.
Hmm.
What would be helpful? Carpooling. For me, that was like the only way for me to go to martial arts. But
That's real. That's real.
yeah, but what would help me? I think not being shy and just like chatting with the people because for me, I when I first started, and it was like years ago, I was too shy to talk to anybody, and that wasn't really fun for me because I would just do my thing, and afterwards I would just go home and like not really interact with people. So
Mhm.
I would say if you're a beginner, like definitely just don't be shy and just say hi to people and like connect with people because that's what really makes it fun.
Wait, so like, because you were shy, scared,
I
like,
was so shy. This was like 3 to 4 years ago, I decided to do like martial arts, and I was just like, this is weird because everybody's talking to each other, and like I was just kind of like, okay, this is so random. I don't know. I was like, I'm not really feeling this, and it was like super intense, like martial arts is always super intense during the thing, and I was like, what did I get myself into? I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take a break and then come back to it. And when I did, like it was like with a new group, and like I was more chattier, and I was like, you know what, like let's just chat some more.
interesting.
Yeah. And
Okay.
if you feel like you're like you just need somebody to like spar with, like ping the channel, ping the people that you're in the class with, and it's like, hey, like, are you interested in like just practicing katas together or something like that? And just like keep you going throughout the week until your next class.
I think that you're right on because as senior students or teachers in a dojo, because they've been mentored by other teachers and senior students above themselves, it's like this natural cultural understanding. I wouldn't say expectation, but it kind of is like an unspoken one where there's a giving back to the community. So when anyone asks you for help, right? I want to say 95% of the time, if not 90% of the time, it's yes, right? And the other percent is because, oh, I can't tonight because I got XYZ, but hey, let's schedule this next time. And then still kind of a yes. It's just
Yeah.
rearranging schedules. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, and that's what's been so helpful because I remember when I first started, I was so confused with even just putting like as a white belt trying to put on my belt. I'm like, how do you do this? Like I see it, the document, but it's not 3D. So I'm like, how do we do this? And I called one of the senseis because this was during COVID times, and I was like, called the sensei, and she was so willing to like go on the Zoom like out of her busy schedule. I was like, yeah, I have like 15 minutes. Like let's do this. And like it was so inspiring because she got super giddy and high, like teaching me how to do this bell thing. And I was like, I've never seen that before, but like because of your reaction and enjoyment of this, like it makes me want to like continue on because it's just like you're not doing it for yourself and you're like really putting aside time and you enjoy it. I should give it a chance in it to enjoy it too.
Totally, right? Yeah, you bring up great points. Like I think maybe initially for a new student to see from their perspective to ask for help feels maybe like
Yes.
a burden, right? Or feels like I don't know, an added responsibility, but actually there genuinely is a lot of joy that comes from it once you have that interaction. You're like, "Oh, okay. Cool. I'll ask again," right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it and like it just builds a lot of like camaraderie with it too. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be super intense. Like even though we're building up personal power and like building up our stamina, you just have fun with it too.
exactly,
Give
right?
yourself a chance to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's there's definitely I think you bring up a great point. It's martial arts can be very intense, but I feel like the various different styles of martial arts, you can definitely pick and choose your level of intensity and also what's appropriate for your body, right? And if your body is not physically at that level to be able to do martial arts because of injuries or something like that, then absolutely you can supplement it with something else, right? I think that's what I've taken away from like doing martial arts and running or exercising, because I was not athletic at all when I first started this path. I was one of
Mhm.
those people that literally didn't know the length of a mile unless I ran 4 laps around a school track. And for the first little bit of my like practice, first couple years, I was like, I had graduated college, but I would go to like the nearest like high school track on a weekend and I'd run the 4 laps and be like, okay, I did my mile. I ran. That was the only way I could figure it out. And then it was like, when I started dating my now husband, he's like, why don't you go run on a trail? I'm like, how would I know how far I ran? The concept. And I'm like, then what do I do? What if I get lost? Like, I was that kind of a green person in like exercise and running, not even funny. So I'm saying that to say, like, after all these years, it's not necessarily the distance. It's not necessarily you have to do a martial arts. It's really this body movement component where you can focus your mind, still it, right? And do so in such a way where you are pushing yourself to limits that you didn't think were possible, right? This is not, I'm saying, to like re-injure yourself. It's just to say like mentally when you're like, I can't do another push-up, then you do one more and then you're like, oh, I just kind of hit past the ceiling, right? The invisible ceiling that we put on ourselves. Right,
Exactly.
right,
Exactly.
right. Um, anything else you would love to share with just a message for women practitioners out there?
Oh my goodness.
Because this is a very patriarchal world.
It is. Women practitioners, you are powerful enough. We see you. And, you know, if you feel like you don't have support, hit up me and Ekajari. We got you.
Seriously, seriously.
Yeah, I think that's like the hardest thing is
Mm.
with women conditioning, we have a tendency of competing with each other, right? Even though we're like, hey y'all, what's up? And then and you're like, she ain't got shit on me. Kind of thing. You're like, no, man. But like, I think it comes back to like again, like really finding that tribe that would truly be honest with you. And and that's a little tricky because say for instance you're just by yourself doing your like 9 to 5 and you just have friends. I hmm, I think like for me, what how I was able to come about it, it was like I came to a place where I was like, I'm fed up with this shit. Like, I want to be people who are real about like being honest and true and stuff like that. And life like presented itself in a way where, yes, we had like trial and tribulation, aka challenges, but along the way, like I was able to find really, really cool and beautiful women who was super powerful, nurturing, but also like helped support each other. And that was like really cool too. So if to find that kind of community, it's very rare. If you stumble on this podcast and you feel that you don't, I'm serious. Like reach out to me and Nekajani. We'd be happy to like to connect or reconnect with y'all. But yeah, like with being a woman, we've been told so much that like we're not enough. We don't have to tell ourselves we're not enough. And just know that like we know that you're enough and more than enough and that you have the power to transcend whatever you're going through.
Oh, thank you for that message, Sekhmet, because real story is like the female conditioning that I've been raised with, even also in my Asian culture that I adds on another layer. And then social media, oh my God, it's just not so good, right? And was it last year, and I'm gonna be, oh my gosh, do I say my age? No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be 45 this year, right? And
Oh my
last
goodness.
year,
So
only but
young.
last year, I was like listening to some of my self talk.
Yeah.
and I was like, what is my deal? I was just super just berating myself, beating myself down, just kind of laying into myself like this is not good enough. This is, just super like typical social media comparison to real life, which is totally unrealistic, right? In
Yeah.
the superficial vain ways of like body stuff or whatever. And
Mhm.
I was like listening and it was like, cannot believe after 44 years, I took a look at that voice and I was like, what the heck is going on after 44 years? And this is after quite a few years of practicing too. So you can only imagine how this is like gone on, right?
Yeah.
And I pulled that voice, like this is how it looked like in my brain. I pulled that voice into the forefront and I looked at it. I'm like, what's your deal? And I just had like a legit, like eyeball to eyeball conversation with this thing. And it's like, what are you about? What are you trying to get at? What's your purpose? Kind of thing, What do you
Mhm.
need? Blah, blah, blah. Like just took a moment to just really have an honest assessment with that. And
Mhm.
the realization came from that is fuck this. I'm not going to live the rest of my other 44, 50 years of my life listening to you. And
Yep.
so literally from that moment, that day, I had that real face-to-face talk. I was like, you don't exist in my life anymore. Right.
Yep.
And does it try to come in? Absolutely. When I'm like watching social media or there's some kind of movie and like things and characters and women are portrayed in a certain way, for sure
Yeah.
it'll bring it up. But
Mhm.
do I let it go on how it's been going on? No, absolutely not. Like I legit was like, this is the line. You shall not cross after this. You shall not pass.
Agreed. 1,000%. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's
it takes a
not,
lot of guts,
yeah,
dude.
and it is not it's not I'm not proud that it took this long, but I speak about it in a real genuine, authentic way because that's how real it is with how insidious this voice comes through. It's not just our own. It came from my mom, who had body image issues, right? And then came from ancestors and then the culture and then like, oh my gosh, it's just so many things,
So
right?
many things. So many things and in so many ways because it's
Yes.
it's not just like sometimes I find it where I'm like, oh, I'm in a leadership position, and like, what is this voice telling me I'm not? Like, I know deep in my heart, I am good enough, I'm strong enough, I have the wisdom because I see it, I have the knowledge because I've experienced it. And then like I do cooking, and all of a sudden all these things are happening. Like I'm cooking for someone, I was like, this is weird. Like, what's telling me I'm not good enough? It's like, it's just that thought that like no matter what, it's like everywhere in every aspect of myself. And I have to fight really hard to be like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna take your bullshit.
Yeah.
I am gonna love myself. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, right? And I think some of the more recent things just on a more like physical body thing, when I see it on like just in actors, actresses and stuff like that, just, you know, public figures, right?
Yeah.
Where let's say they go through a pregnancy and they give birth and it's this beautiful healthy baby and something that their family absolutely wanted and it's this joyful thing, right? And then they go
Mhm.
out and they have some event to attend later and they have to be in ball gowns or whatever, right? And really honest, genuine public figures really embracing in a loving way their bodies after giving birth to a human being, and that it doesn't go into back to this unrealistic like I'm a Barbie shaped body now after carrying a body in my body for 9 months, that I'm just go straight back into Barbie mode. And like I was
Yeah.
like, oh right, like the educational piece and the awareness piece of reality, right? And not all the doctored filters and everything like that on social media.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Ah,
speaking of Barbie, like the recent Barbie that came out, and
yes.
like it speaks so much truth to like what you're talking about. It's like
Wow.
you don't have to be this like freaking Barbie skinny ass person or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Barbie, yeah. America Ferrera, her speech with women,
Wow.
so profound.
So
Oh my
profound. Have to go
goodness.
watch the movie if you haven't watched the recent Barbie thing. I will definitely put it in the show notes. Women
Yes.
power.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other maybe last thoughts that, I didn't ask, but you would want to share to any of the listeners about
Any
anything?
last thoughts? Have fun. In this
Yeah.
world, we think so much about like how we can please others maybe or please
Yeah.
ourselves. Just have fun and be kind to yourself. Always be kind.
Yes. Okay, I love that. Okay, so maybe I'm curious and ask you, what are some kind things that you do for yourself that are examples of kindness for maybe
Oh
others
my
that are
gosh.
listening?
I
Yeah.
just did this morning, which was a myofascial release. So
Ooh.
for me, a massage is not enough. I actually have to get really deep into the connective tissue, and myofascial tissue is basically connective tissue in between the muscles. And a lot of the times for me, I get super tight, and it's not necessarily because of my muscles, but it's just like the nerves are just so high wired because I do so many intense things consistently throughout the day. Just doing something like that or a flip pod, like just hibernating into the water. Or like just having tea with yourself and like telling yourself mantras like I love you. Or like looking into yourself in the mirror in the eyes directly, saying I love you. That's like the most hardest thing that I had to go through is like
Yeah.
really looking myself in the mirror and saying positive things to myself.
Wow, I get
That's
that. I get that. When
yeah.
when I had a friend back in the day, have me look in the mirror and say that to myself, I like burst out crying because I couldn't even do it because I was just
Yeah.
so like in because this is the insidious piece about being women in this like conditioning we have is there's like this insidious seed of like self-hatred or something embedded into our being, and we have to fucking like kick it out because it's like an alien race that's trying to like fucking suck our life force out, right? I
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm thinking Alien, dude. Seriously, legit
Literally.
Alien
Yeah.
movie, and be able to just allow our being to be the full brightness that it is without that insidious like self. I mean, it sounds so harsh, but it's like self hatred, self loathing.
Hmm.
Voice.
Yeah. And like everyone has that. So it's not really truly your thoughts. It's just thoughts. Someone had told us this, so we're just like, you are a divine being. Just believe in it. Like, just wake up a divine being, girl.
Can I say something to that? Because it's funny.
Yes.
I've been super on a crazy Netflix, Chinese soap opera, K-pop like kick. Don't get me started on that. But the point I'm tell you is they have all
Love.
these very like beautiful, youthful looking people on there. And I realized as I was kind of watching the characters and then even doing like YouTube searches of them in real life when they're doing like interviews, what their vibe is like. I've
Yes.
come to realize that it doesn't necessarily matter how that person looks physically. I mean, yes, you can see beauty physically when that happens, but for me, the next level is when I can see and feel the light shining from them. And that can be inner light, that can be their heart light, whatever you want to, think of when I mention light. And
Yeah.
it dawned on me the other day. I was like, wow, like for me, where I've gotten to in my life, beauty and that divine beingness really comes from this inner light that we shine. And it really causes the physical features to take a back seat, which I think in society, cultural, we always do the vice versa. The women
Exactly.
have like the skin vibrating cream, the tightening cream, the lifting cream, all these very like
Exactly.
physical things first to be able to be beautiful, right? And kind of forgetting the background, which is the inner light that we shine, right? And meditation, 100% taps into our inner light and shines that out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, at one point it's just like you're just so free and you're like, ah, this is so good. And like when you have that fun and like that light-heartedness, like everyone feels that. They just keep on looking at you, you're like, can't figure this person out, but I want to hang around with this person.
Totally.
And that's what's like so
Totally.
beautiful. And you touch so much on it, like beauty, like what defines beauty. And to each person it's different, but yeah,
Yeah.
light.
Yes, light.
It
Light is
shines
it.
through.
Isn't that so trippy? Like they have the a whole crazy cosmetic industry that's I'm sure however many billions of dollars, but I was like, oh, interesting. They've kind of latched on to this concept of actually trying to shine the person's inner light. But actually, if we just sell meditation more, which is one of the jokes that Turia and I have talked about, that we need to do an ad, a marketing ad says, Samadhi, good for the skin, youthful, da 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 da,
Oh my
beneficial.
gosh, can we do that?
Yeah,
Like me
let's
and a
do
couple
it.
of BOMA folks are like, you know what? We're kind of like leaning towards these like really cool ad stuff or like production in a way, in a sense. So look out
Let's
for that
let's
sometime
collaborate.
this year.
Yes, let's
We'll do
collaborate.
a we'll do a collaboration, Ekajai
Yes,
and the BOMA folks.
yes. Okay. Yes, yes, definitely. Any questions for me before I let you go?
Oh my gosh. Do I have questions? I have many, but
Feel free.
like how how was your journey like with as a women practitioner and like having to deal with like men of power of status and like with the projects that you've worked in or with your career or whatnot?
Oh, many. Yeah, the whole spectrum. I think I started out before I even entered onto this path and practice of like formally seated meditation daily and stuff like that. Before that even happened, I definitely went through all the experiences of like past karmas of um using my body in all the ways that were like um what society would call normal. It's like I go clubbing and dancing, and the whole agenda was like, how much skin could I show? You know what I mean? Literally, I go
Uh,
in there and
oh my
like
God.
practically everything's hiked up. You like see everything, and it was like that was the game I was trying to play, right?
Yeah.
To see what interactions that got me and what it led to. Obviously, not so healthy things was this objectification of this female feminine form like an object, right? That it could
Yep.
be possessed, that could be purchased, that could be bought, that can be fawned over, whatever you want to call it in the form of an object, right?
Mhm.
And if that's your thing, go to it, right? Do you, right? But for me, I realized one, it's didn't feel good, right? And number two, I felt like I ended up demeaning and lowering my own, right, sense of self-worth around it. And I felt like there was more, genuinely more. And so then when I got onto this path, something I loved was, Rama, our root guru really speaks about women empowerment. And I'm like, okay, I'm down with this. How do I make myself more powerful? Right. He's like, okay, meditate, run, exercise, kind of thing, do martial arts and all the stuff like that. So as I started out into that world more, I found greater balance in my being as a female in the way where in the beginning, going into a martial arts dojo where usually the majority is guys and men, it'd be a
Mhm.
little daunting. And especially if I was like the white belt, it's like cringy for me. I felt like this awkward, like junior high school person trying to, be with the guys. It just was awkward and a lot of self consciousness kind of thing. But
Mhm.
when I continue to practice and apply myself, which I think is something that you speak to, Sekhmet, is there's really such power in consistency, right? And when we
Yes.
consistently apply ourselves and we consistently show up, I think that's the better word of it, just showing up.
Mhm.
Eternity and light works through us in ways that we can't even imagine. It's so beyond our control, so beyond our knowledge, right? And over
Mhm.
time, I found like this more ability in my feminine being to, I guess, a way to talk about is like the tomboy, where it's like, oh, I felt comfortable hanging out with the boys. They were like my brothers, right? That kind of vibe wasn't so awkward, junior high school, like knees knocking against each other as I walked down the martial arts. It's like, Okay, you're my brother. Cause I have a younger brother. So I was able to associate that. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? Okay, cool. It's like, okay, stop punching me. That's annoying. We're not training right now. Like things like that just started coming out a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the other, I think, level of like rebalancing myself, in kind of my feminine form was my relationship with my husband now, is he is absolutely like, I would say he's totally about women empowerment too. And it's
Love.
really, really cute and sweet because he had also such a strong, awesome mother. So he had a great relationship in that way. So when I came into the picture and we had our beginning relationship, it was this very equalizing role. I still remember it's like I wanted to be the princess, it's like I wanted to be saved by my white knight and all this stuff like that. And it's like we're walking the airport. I'm like, can you help me with my bag? It's heavy. He's like, you do martial arts, you're strong. Carry it yourself. I'm like, oh,
Real check. Reality check.
okay.
Damn.
And then like, but now where it's grown into is like, wait, can I try this on you for martial arts? And my husband's like, no, you're gonna hurt me. No, 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 no. I'm scared of you. I'm scared of you. I'm scared of you. I was like, really? I wouldn't hurt you, but but the awareness that I've gotten stronger in my being, and that there's the power and the light that's flowing through me that you know can effectively not harm is not the, but be effective on whatever it is I want to execute in my life, and that really brings forth a lot of success, right, in our just like professional life, relational life, whatever it is, personal
Mhm.
life as well. But I think the trajectory started out for me very like the total condition response, but it had this healing, rebalancing effect through consistent practice, and also, like you said, surrounding us and surrounding myself with people that were genuinely supportive and genuinely a cheerleader for my light and my empowerment, right? And those people are jewels, right? A super jewels in our life, because that gives us, like you said, the belief to believe in ourselves, and then gives me pause to be like, yeah, I am strong enough. Yeah, never mind, I can do this, right? And
Uh-huh.
so it's funny because when I'm now in this different spectrum place, right? Not better or worse, just on a different spectrum. Sometimes when I'll see, like the Chinese soap operas or something like that, or Chinese romantic comedies, these women actresses are like 90 pounds or less, and they're tiny, and
Mhm.
like they literally can't like lift things up and heavy things. They're like just not weak, but they're in a different place, right, on the whole spectrum. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, which then I struggle sometimes because I see the male character, and he's supposed to be the strong protector, and I was like, dude, I think he's skinnier than me. I think I can actually pick him up. I can throw him on the martial arts mat. And it's this real interesting like dichotomy where you're trying to assimilate two very different pieces of worlds. If you Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. And it's it's fascinating, and then it's also so invigorating and exciting for me, because it's like that's not my paradigm, and now in my paradigm, how does that look when I engage with other paradigms? So it's like this crazy awesome exploratory adventure. I don't have like the answer or anything like that. I just know
Yeah.
that my husband loves to tease me many, many times when I play weak or ask for help. Like literally the now funny joke is the answer is no. Like if I ask him, it's like, can you? He's like, no. I was like, can you maybe? No. And I was like,
Total
he
shutdown.
asked me, no. And I'm like, you can do it yourself. I'm like, you know what I mean?
Wrathful compassion, I guess.
Wrathful compassion. This is what happens when you get motherfucking powerful and strong. No, I'm just kidding.
Basically. Well, I have another question for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had like a situation, or like can you speak on like working through like women conditioning, like with another woman, like with that competitiveness and how it transmuted and transformed into a beautiful dharma that you've had or
Hmm.
experienced?
Hmm. Like us, like how it was transformed, you mean, or how I worked through it?
How you work through it, or like a teaching from of
Hmm.
like reflecting on it with yourself or with
It
other women.
it makes me think of this is I feel like the blessing of having my teacher that I worked with on the meditation path and journey being another female, right? That being
Mm,
Taria.
yes.
And I feel like hindsight looking back, I very much see that it was a gift and being able to work in such close proximity with my teacher, who is another female and a very strong, powerful female too. Versus,
Mhm,
because I think the dynamics would have been completely different if I was studying with a male teacher, right? I just know that
mhm,
about myself. So in that journey together, so much growth and transformation happened where the support for each other lended to trust, right?
yeah.
And trust over time fostered this deepening of greater support. And what I mean by that is it's like from a warrior standpoint, it felt like the time and journey together, we went through so many various battles together, right? We would go on trips and things we would encounter, challenges, resistance, hardships, sometimes, things just freaking falling apart and not working out. You're like, oh shit, crises kind of thing.
Yes.
That being able to move through it together, to troubleshoot it together, was
Mhm,
like us going through battle together. And for me, just with how I'm profiled with a lot of like kind of that warrior energy, when I go
mhm,
through battle with people, that's where the trust like super solidifies. You know what I mean? And that solidified trust is like the whole ride or die concept, or like now I have your back kind of thing, and like I have your six, and it just feels very protective and then safe. And from that
mhm.
piece it becomes very collaborative, right? That,
Yep.
and in addition to the greater support. And that's the weird thing, because people don't realize, but for me that's what I've seen is when I go through hardships with other people and experience hardships that we can troubleshoot and move through together, the other side has formed a bond between us and the other person, just in my own being, because this is how I'm like profiled out and that's how I operate. That
Mhm.
if you ask me of things later on, it's like, absolutely, and this comes from so many past lives of like warrior stuff that's like, yeah, I'm happy to give my life for you on this because we've been through battle in this way, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question on that
Oh,
piece?
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it takes a lot to like really be with a teacher and like just like trusting them. One is to trust, and then like two is to like really seeing that love, and you're like, you know what? Like, yeah, I would go through hell with you because like we got each other's back. And
Yeah.
I think that was like such a huge teaching with community, or
Mm.
like teacher student dynamics that we had here, where it took a while. It took a while where it's just like with women and women, there will always be that sense of competition, but it shouldn't always be in the way. And we had that where like I first came here just to help support
Oh
because I
yeah.
had a singing, and I wasn't really actually living here, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. They're like, "Who is she? Well, how dare she?" And I was like, "Well, nobody's really helping. I don't know what's happening, but I'm happy to help." It came
Right.
to a point where I think we did like a work day here, and it was the Shodans. They had their last final teaching in Hawaii, and so it was only the Bodans or the intermediate students there. And we were basically, it literally felt like everything was on fire. It was like one of the hottest days. We were doing a work day. People were getting bee stung. People were like exploding toilets or missing toilets. Electricity was out. So like this water guy was like supposed to refill our tank, but somebody shooed them away. And I was like, what is happening, right? And like everything that could have gone wrong went
Uh-huh.
wrong.
Yeah.
But we realized like putting aside like all of our like competition or whatnot, like we were just talking with each other and just trying to make the best of whatever is happening, come what may. We eventually had fun and we were like, you know what? Like this weird like competition thing, it doesn't really matter, kind of thing. And it came to a point where I was one of the leaders doing meditation. And my intent was like, yeah, we're having a meditation, but I was like looking around, I told everyone my saying, which was like, yes, we're gonna be the next, we're gonna be handed the baton and we're gonna be the next leaders of this generation. Like,
Mm.
I don't know what it is. There's just something so profound. And I told everyone that. And like like didn't really believe it. And like there was something in their eyes that was sparkled, especially like the women in that group.
Oh,
And they're just like, yeah. And then we did our meditation. And I was like, you know what? Like, I just want to show the light. It doesn't matter how it comes about.
yeah.
And I was just like completely gone, can't remember it. And all I just remember is white light.
Oh,
At the end of it, like we finally had our dinner. It's like 8 o'clock, we were just all starving. And like during that, like somebody approached me and was like, hey, like what did you do in that meditation? And we normally had like a little bit of a
conflict,
what do you call it? Sharp edge of a rock.
rubbing.
And that was like like a really small opening. I was like, huh, there's something about this that opened a very unique dharma with like Sangha sisterhood.
Mm.
And like we started sharing. I was just like, and I opened up a dialogue and a discussion with people. I was like, what did you guys experience in this meditation? Because this is what I experienced. I have no idea what was happening. I wasn't really there. And let's just like it's not really facilitating, but like keeping that open, safe space for people to be able to chat actually led to a lot of series and events where we're able to have opportunities to actually have this sisterhood here in Boma. And like several other things happened, which I cannot disclose here, but but like all in all, like we went through the thick and thin, like the highs and the lows, and realizing that like despite like whether we have like a little argument or whatnot, it transcends and just like we have that love for each other. And that's like what's really so profound with Sangha sisterhood is that like despite all of the karmas, like if we go beyond and we're really together, oh my gosh, like moving mountains. These women in Boma, I have to say, like even in the Sangha and like the lineage, very, very profound. But the women in Boma, because we're just in so much close proximity and we share not everything, but like we are just very honest with everything and like really want each other's enlightenment to continue unfolding. It's such a privilege and an honor to be here.
Oh. You,
Yeah.
you make me think of I want to say the right movie. Correct? Have is it Women King?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Somebody was just talking about that. Yeah.
Have you seen
Woman
it?
King. I did. That's the one with Viola Davis, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes me think of what you're talking about, that camaraderie, that sisterhood, but this, rooted in this movie that was such deep warriorship was, oh, see, right?
Yes.
Highly recommend go see that movie. But thank you for sharing that piece because and I thank you for holding the space because this is something I want to highlight is in my experiences as I'm reflecting upon that with competitive other individuals, right?
Mhm.
Our own ability to be able to hold space that is harmonious, peaceful, balanced, right? Absolutely influences and sets a ripple effect out towards others, right? And it makes me think of how that's such a perfect martial arts metaphor. It's like the other person attacking you, sparring with you, partner training with you could be totally being an asshole. You know what I mean? But if you can maintain your zen, right, through all your tools and practices of your life and spiritual meditation, that doesn't allow you to tip out of balance into their kind of asshole behavior. Like you can maintain your balance, still shine that light. And whether they want to receive the light or not is on them, right? But that's not, it's like what I say, not our monkey, not our circus, not our pig, not our farm. Like that's them.
That's the first I've heard of that, but yes, agree to that.
You never heard that phrase?
I've never heard of that phrase before. I'm
Not my
gonna use
monkey,
that
not my
now.
circus. Oh my gosh, I fucking love it. I fucking love it. It's like when drama starts to spin up and my husband or some friend is telling, I'm like, not my monkey, not my circus, not my pig, not my farm. I got my farm to deal with.
Love.
No, but thank you for being the beacon of light that you are, and that women embodied empowerment, not just for you and your female, sangha mates and sisterhood that you have at your ashram, but also for the world. Because I 100% know that the way you interact with other people in any day, everyday life, like people feel that from you, I know I felt that from you when you took care of me with my boo-boo on my knee. And I was like, oh, someone taking care of me. When people think I'm so strong, they don't think I need a band-aid. Buy a band-aid.
Someone band-aid me, nurse me. Sometimes we need a little love,
Totally. I'm gonna tell my husband to pay attention to what I'm just kidding.
He says no, out of love.
I'll send you a funny meme that I saw with like Kevin Hart. Anyways, I'll
Love.
send it to you. It's on Instagram. It's pretty much like, it's like how we try and listen, how our spiritual guides try to talk to us. And he's like, come here. No, come here. Come here. What did I say? Look at me. No.
I'm definitely like one of those people trying to call my spirit guide. I'm like, what? No.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
send it to you. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on this day.
It's such an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me. You're always such a jewel, and thank you for all that you are.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me stop.
Peace.